Are you one of the people having a problem with human rights group Jamaicans for Justice? If so, it's all right. Comment below, let me know. I want to know, because that's what we're talking about in today's video. Some of the issues that people have with the group. I'm also going to tell you something I think they're doing wrong. Thanks for joining me courtside. I'm Dionne Jackson Miller. So I asked on X what people thought of Jamaicans for Justice, and of about 40 responses, how many people you think, had negative comments or had positive comments? I'm going to tell you a little bit later down in the video, but right now, let me just share some of them so you can get an idea of what people are saying and thinking. Kel says, total rubbish and irrelevant. They lost the whole point of what they're about. I'm not sure if they even remember what it was. As I see it, their only position is to oppose everything the governing party comes up with. Garfield says, I'm not seeing how their recent utterances accord to their mission to engender fundamental change in Jamaica's judicial, economic, social and political systems in order to improve the present and future lives of all Jamaicans. There'll be no future Jamaica if criminals run rampant. Anne says, previously, JFJ was a respected and purpose-focused organization. Of late, it has lost its way and seems to be taking orders from the lawless. When last have we heard of this organization pursuing a matter in which there is a real victim? Just taking sides with criminals and their associates, I guess that is, serves no purpose. Annie says, JFJ under its founder was a different organization with a purpose, standing against abuses by the state and unlawful killings by the security forces. And though it has been misunderstood or served Jamaica well, today JFJ has lost its way. Darrell says, it's when an injustice from the state reaches your door that you'll wish there was an advocate for you. Don says, plays a very integral role in informing civil society about its rights, freedom and privileges. Keep on with your mandate. Andre says, just another advocacy group like any other, ensuring our rights are secure. People might not agree with everything they do, but they're a vital part of modern society. And Vision is Step says, I respect them more every day, steadfast and faithful to their mandate, a valuable institution in any evolved society. And the reason I asked is that, there's just been this whole outpour of negativity and negative reactions towards JFJ in recent times. I guess social media has made that more apparent. Now, especially there's been a lot of criticism since the mass shooting in Clarendon on August 11 that led to the death of 8 people, including a young boy. So what did JFJ say that upset people so much? Executive Director Michael Jackson took issue with something Prime Minister Andrew Holness had said when he said that gangsters must prepare to meet a judge or meet their maker. And Miss Jackson accused the Prime Minister of inciting state badness. She told the Jamaica Observer that by suggesting that individuals must face the court or their makers, there is a risk of inciting a culture of violence and retribution, undermining the very principles of justice that we as a society hold dear. She said, by suggesting that everyone involved in this incident will be brought to justice in whatever form the justice is visited upon them, the PM is uttering what can only be described as state badness. It may sound good and tough, but in an environment where police fatal shootings have increased without use of body-worn cameras, greater sense of discernment is needed from the Prime Minister. The thing is though, in that same story, she was quoted as speaking out against a mass shooting, something that people have been saying she hasn't done. So again, the Observer quoted her as saying, the indiscriminate nature of this violence is not only alarming, but also devastating, especially with the heartbreaking loss of a precious 7-year-old child. IRFM also reported that she condemned the murders. Let me say a couple of things about JFJ though, all right? One, they're doing their job. They're a human rights organization. Human rights organizations speak out in support of the rights of the individual against abuses by agents of the state. So they don't speak out about crime in general, because crime committed by criminals doesn't involve state action. And I have to tell you, I have to laugh, right? When I see one big criticism of JFJ nowadays, according to the narrative, is that they've lost their way and they used to have a different kind of mandate. Now, one of the advantages of being in media as long as I have is that I was there, right? I used to cover JFJ in the early days, right? And I can tell you, they have always stood up against the police and against the security forces, and they have always been royally cussed out for it. I give you two high profile examples, right? So in 2001, you had the police killing of 7 young men who came to be known as the Brayton Seven. And then in 2004, you had the police killings of 4 people in Crawl in Clarendon. They used to speak out against police killings and police action so much that popular senior police officer Renita Adams used to call them a criminal rights organization. In relation to the rights of ordinary citizens and whether they speak out for the rights of ordinary citizens, JFJ, though, for instance, has been one of the major voices responsible for keeping the issue of Mario Dionne alive and in the public sphere. Now, a lot of you may not remember who Mario Dionne is because this goes back 10 years. Mario Dionne was a 31-year-old man who was picked up by police in Mobay for possession of a ganja spliff, taken into police custody and beaten to death while in police custody, and the case has still not been resolved, right? And that was 2014, so as I said, that's 10 years ago. Coming up on August 21, in fact, JFJ has been advertising a protest rally in which they are going to be again raising the issue of the delay of justice in this particular case. But let's be clear, right? It is going to look as if JFJ is speaking up for criminals, and part of the reason for that is that we don't do a very good job of separating issues. It is perfectly possible to hate crime and hate criminals and yet at the same time insist that criminals or alleged criminals, that their rights be protected, that they get due process. It is actually perfectly possible to hold both those positions at the same time, because civilized societies do accept that criminals have rights too and that those rights have to be protected. What that means is that there's going to have to be a lot of advocacy taking place on behalf of, people who are sometimes a little bit dodgy, a little bit suspicious, or downright criminals. Let's not be naive and pretend that some of them are not criminals. They absolutely are. But you can't wait to speak up on rights issues until there is somebody involved who you approve of or who you like, some cute little kid or some upstanding citizen, and so the thing work. Because can you imagine what happens in a country in which state power is unchecked, in which government officials are allowed to do anything they like without anybody speaking up because, just some criminal them and deal with? I keep asking the same question. What happens then when it's your brother or your husband or your friend that the police them come lock up? All right, what happens then? And this thing about the awesome power of the state is a real thing, and always has to be checked, always. So yes, we come from far, but that doesn't mean that we still have issues and that we don't have to keep watching the state. We absolutely do. Talk to long-time lawyers who would tell you how they used to go around the island and police would tell them, say they can't see their clients just so, and then they can't see them, right? Now, talk to people who have had the experience of having their relative moved around from lockup to lockup and then can't find them. And I'm not just talking that. I have had an experience where I have gone to a particular lockup to see a client, only to hear that the client has been moved, and they will not tell me where the client has been moved to. And what I'm telling you is that you have to wait until the person who was on duty at the time your client was moved comes back on duty or comes to work. Nobody else can help you. So this thing about the state and the need to watch over the state and to speak up when they carry out arms hosting, that is a real thing. So coming back to this criticism of Michael Jackson for speaking up and criticizing what the Prime Minister said, we actually do need people in society, who are not afraid to speak up and to criticize powerful people. And whether you agree with Michael Jackson and JFJ or not, there is a legitimate concern about the comment made by the Prime Minister. There is a legitimate question as to whether, by talking about gangsters meeting judges or meeting their makers, whether that kind of comment could suggest to others that extrajudicial killings are being sanctioned. Whatever it meant, whatever the Prime Minister meant, it is a legitimate question given the words that he used, and it is a question that deserves to be asked. You know, we shouldn't be afraid of asking these questions. Also, I hear people saying the time is wrong and JFJ needs to read the room and not make these comments at this time. And I'm like, that can't make sense. If what you're doing is expressing concern about a comment somebody has made or actions that the police are taking now, what are you supposed to do? Wait 1 month? Wait 1 year? That can't make sense. Clearly, your concerns have to be raised at the time the comments are made and also at the time the police are taking whatever action they're taking. For instance, suppose the police come and tell us that, oh, there have been a bunch of shootouts and all the Cherry Tree Lane killers have been shot and killed. People are going to applaud. But again, we need to question, we shouldn't be too gullible in just accepting everything we're told. How we know? How do we know that what we're being told is true? And something I always said, I don't get this thing about cussing people for something that they believe in and that they're passionate about. I see people telling them, for instance, they need to go raise money for the victims. If you really think that money needs to be raised for victims, that is something you can do though. Why look at somebody else doing their work and say, no, me think the need for do something different? The world needs more advocates, The world needs more advocates and more activists and more people of courage speaking out on issues that are of concern to them. So if that is something you feel strongly about, where you cuss JFJ about, go do your thing, man. Start your organization. You don't need no whole heap of money or nothing, Start reading up on an issue you're passionate about. Start writing letters to the paper, posting on social media, calling into the talk shows, and there you are, speaking out on your issue. People can do that. Stop cuss people for doing things that they want to do. That don't make no sense. Now, I did say there was a concern I had about JFJ, and that has to do with the issue of donors. Now, people keep asking who gives JFJ money, and I always say check them website. They put it on their website. So I looked at the website again today in preparation for this video, and this is what the website shows. So they have a page and they say these are some of our major funders. And I don't know what that means. Why would you only be posting some of your major donors? No, JFJ, an organization that's under as much scrutiny as you are, and a question like this that people are always asking, all your major donors need to be listed. If not, why not? Tell us why not. And in addition, what is a major funder in fact? What's the threshold? Is it somebody who has donated, 10,000 US, 10 million US, 100 million US? What is it? Tell us the figures. And also, is there a threshold below which you don't list donors because maybe there are too many of them and the amount is too small? If so, you need to tell us that as well. So I think we need more transparency on your website on that particular issue. And by the way, of the 40 responses I counted, 10 were positive toward JFJ, 30 were negative. So what's your attitude towards JFJ? Are you more positive? Are you more negative? Tell me in the comments below now. I'd love to see. I'd love to learn more about what it is you're thinking. I also want to hear what you think about what I've said in this video. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me courtside. I'm Dionne. I'll see you next time.